We're going to go to a different matchup again and go back to the Rogue and Mage matchup. And I think this is the most difficult one for the Mage to deal with, maybe including the side decks as well, with the chance of the walk, the plank, and the extra saps, of course. But let's take a look at Tyler's deck and see how it's built, because it is not similar. Oh, sorry, it is similar, but it does have its differences to the deck we just saw from Dawn. And mainly just these Frost Novas and Mind Control techs are the big deal for me. And no Archmage Antonidas, but it does have the Rabble Bouncers, so you can see right now where if you were going against Warrior, you want to play Dawn's list. If you're going against Rogue, you want to play Tyler's list. So you see the difference in the actual primary deck, and I think this is the class right now that has the most variation in what people are bringing initially.
Yeah, the Cycle Mage that Tyler's bringing with the Frost Novas in the main list, it helps against Rogue, but it also helps a lot in the mirror. Oftentimes, if you end up being behind, the Frost Novas just let you stall out the board, and even with 1 or 2 threats, let you just come back in the game, and this can be used as well against Rogue. The Mind Control tech, also very good against Rogue when the Rogue happens to go wide after their lackey, after the Miscreen comes down, and all the lackeys are generated.
Yeah, and also just a side note, you can see in the top right of the screen, and when we look at these deck lists, there are QR codes that you can use, and they do work, I promise. So make sure to give that a try if you like to. But let's just take a look at Glory's Rogue list and just see if there's anything that stands out. To me, it looks fairly straightforward. There's none of the extreme late game of Tog or Nomi in there, but I also don't think you particularly want it versus Mage as well. So I think Glory, especially with the double Deadly Poison, double deck hand, has a relatively solid list here.
Right. Notably, there's no Captain Greenskin, and there is 1 sap, which most players are opting to have 1 of in their main list. Seems good for Glory. We'll probably see him switching to one of his other lists for the second or third games, but this is a good start against Mage.
Yep, also just a small side reward for the benefit of only running 1 weapon removal in your initial deck is that, you know, if you do run into Mage, well, great, because it's the minimum that people are running. Like, there aren't really anyone running 0 in their primary deck because the threat of Rogue and Warrior is just too high, at least for week 1 of Grandmasters. So Glory there, you know, taking some edge away from mirror matches, but gaining it back in the fact that he has to play against Tyler on his Mage. So again, I think both players have good lists for the matchup. I think it's going to be a close one. And as I feel may well be a theme of Grandmasters, it is maybe more impactful than people thought, but it might come down to, does the counter deck beat the counter deck? You know, who's built it that little bit better? And I think that's going to be maybe just more impactful than the general person who had maybe played or watched a lot of specialists has thought so far.
Yeah, definitely agree. I mean, we were talking about the win rates earlier. Everything's been really, really close across all three classes. So any little advantage you can get can really make the difference.
Yeah, and we touched on it a little bit earlier, but it's the big deals. You see the players just getting ready there. That we're talking a lot about, does your counter deck beat your opponent's counter deck for you? Well, this is because you can bring effectively 3 lists, and there's a triforce of classes and archetypes in this week's Grandmasters. Next week, the players can resubmit, and that means, well, suddenly, if the second is 4 classes or 5, it means that you can't just very reliably have a counter mage, counter warrior, play rogue done style. You do have to just mix it up a little bit, I think. But let's go into the game as the players are ready. They're already doing their mulligans. Tyler on the mage has some kind of hot beverage. I'm already interested as to what it is. Is it just tea? Is it not? We'll maybe never find out. I'm going to ask. But Glory also on the rogue there. Let's break down these opening hands for us.
All right, Glory on the coin decided to keep Edwin and a raiding party. Got another one back in the opening hand as well. Tyler full tossing everything, probably to try to find card draw to help him get more of the tools he needs against rogue.
Okay, well, not looking too great for Tyler so far based on the opening hand. We've seen a double Astromancer opening before this weekend, and it was not fantastic.
Yeah, Astromancer not the card you want against rogue. It's in there for warrior and sometimes the mirror.
Yeah.
Not to say that it can't be used against rogue as well. Sometimes you can get something really crazy off.
You've just got to get there first.
Yeah, exactly. Turn 7 is quite a bit of ways.
Already now there is Coin Raiding Party available, or even Coin Van Cleef if you were so inclined, but I do actually like the hold. You don't gain anything by playing Coin Raiding Party really this turn. You may as well just dagger, get some kind of little threat on the, you know, potentially on the board, as this deckhand is now live now for just 3 damage already from hand for glory. But most importantly, you just hold on to your resources.
Yeah, in the past when we've seen Shadowblade being included in this deck, obviously that's rotated out and we have Waggle Pick, but in the past you could go coin Raiding Party and then equip Shadowblade. Can't do that anymore with Waggle Pick with the 1 extra mana cost, so that kind of changes the way some of these players have to play.
I know Sol was preaching Perdition's Blade a lot as an additional weapons to the Waggle Picks as well. In Rogue, especially just after rotation, of course. And I wasn't 100% sold on it, but yeah, he was convinced that it was good tech. Or, you know, a different extra weapon to use, and one that can be used a little bit better with, say, you know, prep Raiding Party, equip a weapon, and go.
Interesting.
That was my response too.
Yeah.
You didn't get to see Language Hacker's facial expression there, but yeah.
I squinted a little bit, raised an eyebrow.
Yeah. Just the one eyebrow though, not both. It wasn't a look of surprise.
Not a whole lot to do from Tyler's side. You don't want to be using mirror images just when it can be attacked with a dagger. You want to use it on some key turns when there's bigger minions on board, and Glory actually has to spend resources to deal with them. Also, keeping them in hand means his hand size is bigger for Astromancer or Giant later.
I've got a question for you. Are you using Shadow Step with coin and Van
Oh
Cleef?
yeah, this is a Brotherhood turn.
Nice. Are you playing the deckhand again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not actually.
It is an activator next
actually, yeah, that's a
turn.
good point. You could save it for the Raiding Party. Good call.
And they're like, yeah, the big thumbs up from Tyler's like, I've been cleaved.
And now these images look a lot better.
Along with Ray of Frost.
Oh yeah.
And the Frost Nova. Like Tyler
And
can pretty much.
Oh my goodness, the Apprentice as well.
Tyler can pretty much just never let this Van Cleef attack for a large portion of this game.
So he can decide here if he wants to just go in now on Mana Cyclone or wait a little bit longer. With the 4 mana, this means any spell he gets back from the Cyclone, if it's at 1 mana cost, he can use it again with the Apprentice. But if he waits a turn, it kind of increases the range of spells he can use again after the Cyclone. Or he can just wait till he draws more spells. Maybe the next card's a Magic Trick and he gets a bit more juice out of the Mana Cyclone. But I'd be surprised if he just passed.
I think for me, it's a backwards reason of you do the play this turn. Yes, you're less likely to be able to keep playing spells, but you can use next turn to play the spells, because next turn Tyler doesn't have a lot to do either. So the spells he gains this turn will just be used next turn. He deals with the Van Cleef to a certain extent now.
Right.
And then, you know, he's going to gain some spells. He might even... I think I would hold the Ray of Frost.
I think holding the Ray of Frost might be good. 1 extra spell off of the... Goes to use it. By using it, it does set up a trade on it. If Glory doesn't deal with any of your board, you could potentially trade both minions in and ping it off. Cards you got back aren't the most useful. The Icicle does deal damage to minions.
Astral Rift isn't terrible when the hand size is a thing, so if he draws a Mountain Giant, Astral Rift can help with that. And you never know, the minions might just be decent.
Glory now has to decide if he wants to stick to the game plan he was thinking of before by activating this Raiding Party with the deckhand, or if he wants to deal with the Apprentice because he feels it's a bit of a threat. And I do like taking the time this turn to clear off the Apprentice instead of going for the deckhand Raiding Party. The Apprentice just is a little bit too much of a threat.
Not going to help too much this turn.
So Tyler does have a clear on the Edwin if he wants to do it. Icicle, Shooting Star, Ping. It's 5 mana. 5 mana. That's 4 damage. Plus the Cyclone on board lets him clean up the Edwin. It is quite a bit of an investment, but I mean, Glory's been taking it a little bit slow now because he had to eviscerate the Apprentice. So
it wouldn't be too bad, to be honest. You can use Astral Rift to refill the hand later.
I'm just kind of scared. I mean, Tyler also knows there's a deckhand in Glory's hand, right? If he doesn't deal with the Edwin, Glory could swing at the 0 with his weapon, South Sea deckhand the image down, and that Edwin will connect face.
That's true.
So I don't know if I like the Astral Rift from Tyler here.
I was meaning more next turn for refill, right?
Yeah,
you do that turn this turn, and the next turn you play Astral Rift, and that leads quite nicely in, actually, to those the Astromancers, because it will just add +1 cards to your hand.
He was just mousing over it earlier, and I was thinking,
right.
yeah.
Don't do it.
I mean, he could. Perhaps there's something good in the box. Interesting. So this way he uses the Nova to activate the Icicle draw, getting him another card in his deck. And this still sets up for Shooting Star Ping. And in fact, if he expects Glory to play the deckhand now to activate something else, the Shooting Star will not only deal 1 damage to the Edwin, but also, on a side note, hit the deckhand.
just squeezing out the maximum value you can from each card is actually pretty insane.
I didn't see this originally. I don't hate this play.
Unity, precision, perfection.
Okay. Glory developing Ziliax here. Cleaning up on the board. The taunt doesn't really help protect the Edwin from anything. There's not any charge or rush minions in Tyler's deck. I mean, actually, there is a Ziliax. But,
Ooh, another Rabble Bouncer. Not really what Tyler was after here.
yeah, oftentimes when you have... Rabble Bouncer is kind of tricky to use because obviously you can get it down really cheap when your opponent has multiple minions on the board, but against Edwins or bigger minions, it doesn't do a whole lot.
It ends up being often like a turn 10 play, right? Of just
Yeah.
Rabble Bouncer, Conjurer's Call, and go. Just as a nice 7 mana minion to aim that at.
Deckhand Raiding Party from Glory. I believe there's only one pirate left in the deck now, which is the Bloodsail Corsair. And there is still a second Waggle pick, so the second Raiding Party will not do as much as the first. Blood and Plunder. Glory pushing for board. This does make the Rebel Bouncer a bit cheaper for Tyler, but it doesn't quite line up super nicely with the board. It does. It could eat up a Ziliax in the deckhand, trading into it.
Ooh, Ray of Frost might change things.
Astromancer I feel is a bit too slow. I don't think you want to take 8 damage. That's probably going to be more than 8 damage. You know there's Waggle pick in hand out too.
Because we double Ray of Frost with the Mountain Giant. Not in that order, of course.
Right. Could also go Astral Rift, Rabble Bouncer, and then just one Ray of Frost. Try to get used to these Rabble Bouncers. Adding some cards to your hand with the Astral Rift, making the Giant cheaper. Although you don't have the Conjurer's Calling yet.
A lot of options for Tyler here, actually. Game gets a little bit tricky when it's not. It's always good to have options, but when you have so many, it can be hard to just break down in the short amount of time that these players have during each turn. Already, as if on demand, there's the rope, and Tyler needs to decide something pretty quick. We've seen an echo effect be a little bit of a problem for players previously today. It's just going to drop the Astromancer. And,
He decides if he's ever going to play it, it's going to be right now. Attack Noswhisker.
Oh, I honestly thought his name was Naz Tackwhisker.
I
don't know why, but...
If production hadn't moused over that, I might have messed it up.
Oh, okay. Good.
Second Waggle pick draw on this Raiding Party number 2 in Glory's hand isn't going to do a whole lot. It's 3 mana, draw a 1-drop. He has to consider if he wants to try to clean up the board to prevent any Conjurer's Calling plays from happening, or if he wants to just chip everything face and say, all right, let's end this game.
I think I like full face.
I do as well. I don't think sinking 11 damage into these minions is going to get you anywhere. Your hand's kind of running out of gas. This Raiding Party's not going to do a whole lot. What else do you have?
Yeah, full face with a sap in hand and a Shadow Step as well to help out with some extra damage.
Yep.
Sounds pretty good to me.
So
big Raiding Party.
Tyler should know that that's Bloodsail Corsair and that there's a Waggle pick left in hand because that Raiding Party was comboed. So he can put a Glory on 2 out of 5 cards known, and it's just the other 3 cards. Actually, one of the other cards was drawn from the Raiding Party, I believe, the deckhand.
Oh, right.
So he might even know 3 cards, yeah.
Wow.
Alright, this play from Tyler looks like it might end up paying off. It kind of made Glory commit a bit harder to the board, try to push face, and now those Rabble Bouncers can both come out in one turn. One sap's not going to quite do it.
Does anything else get there though? Because he can sap trade to kill off the 2 taunts effectively. He can play Miscreant, which will leave him with 3 mana. He can deckhand Shadow Step deckhand, which will still leave him with 2 mana, and he'll have 2 mana with 2 lackeys in hand.
Could work.
So it's still not going to quite get him there if he gets deal 2 twice, right?
The thing is, he doesn't have enough burn just to finish up the game. I'm curious if he ever wants to also throw in the deckhand into the Astromancer just to give him a bit more time to find the reach, or if he wants to just... I'm not even sure if you want to play the deckhand this turn and just go face. You probably want to see what's in the Miscreant. The thing is, how do you do that?
Yeah, that's the problem, right? You either play the deckhand first or you sap. But if you sap, you know it's coming down anyway. But maybe you can sap with the knowledge that you know that you're not going to have that many minions on the board. if you end up just leaving the miscreant. Oh,
Okay.
deal 2 and +1.
It's not
That
bad.
+1 in rush can go on the deck can for just +1 damage, you know, just straight off because of the charge. And it's still sad.
Glory draws something a bit bigger. He can also rush that into the Rebel Bouncer so that other things can go face. Tyler finds the second Nova. This is an interesting turn.
Is Giant Nova just good enough?
Trades are kind of awkward.
Just wondering if you put the 5/2 into the 3/3 and then just push the 6/3 face.
Yeah.
Because the Giant is just, you know, Tyler needs to make a play that actually ends this game because he's going to get chipped away pretty quickly.
The thing is, I wonder if he's thinking about the one sap in Glory's deck. 'Cause if you make that play, you don't freeze the waggle pick, right? If there happens to be a sap, you know there's a pirate in hand, probably a deckhand. I mean, it has to be a deckhand. He's seen all the other pirates. So that's 6 damage if there's a sap in hand.
The problem is, so what? That's the same anyway,
Actually,
right?
yeah, you still have.
Yeah, that's it. Unless he can, I don't even know how he can stop that. He would have to cyclone into a frostbolt, right?
True.
So outside of that,
Or an image.
Yeah, make the strongest turn you can and go.
No, that makes sense.
Vape, not bad. Yeah, this is just the most offensive play you can make, and if a sap's there, well, the sap's there, and that's just the way it is.
Oh, is the sap even enough? 4,
Yeah.
6, 7.
Yeah, with a shadow
it is
step on
just
the
enough.
deckhand. And Tyler, although he managed to just fight back versus that early massive Van Cleef, it still wasn't enough, and Glory just gets the job done. Tyler never really had the big blowout turn of multiple giants on board that Glory had to answer. And that was the big problem there with just the double rabble bounces being played. When one can be killed, one can be ignored for now, and then the sap comes down. I think it was just too much for Tyler. Not much he could have done there, I don't think.
That's sometimes I find the Rebel Bouncers a bit awkward to use because they do come down when obviously you're behind on board a little bit because you need it to be cheap enough for your opponent has to have minions, but it just doesn't feel like it does enough when you don't have other cards to be paired with.
Yeah, and also when a deck can afford to not go super wide, it's like Rebel Bouncer versus Zoo, Token Druid, fantastic.
Great.
But when it's against Rogue, where they can actually just beat you up with a couple of minions, it gets much, much more trickier to play. But that is just game number 1, and the question is, what are the players going to switch to? And, you know, is it going to be good enough? We're going to find out after this break. Don't go anywhere.
Dalaran will be ours! Once we land, you know what to do! No we don't. You didn't tell us to play it. I didn't think I had to. It's perfectly obvious. Bank! I am to be robbing the bank! I take henchmen for vault smashing and shiny stealing! Plan is obvious! It's a start, yes, but...
You won't get a single coin unless you take care of the city's guards. Let's rip open Violet Hole and unleash the prisoners on the city. That'll keep the guards busy.
Certainly, but that's not...
No! First, we must sow chaos in the streets.
I got rockets. Anyone need rockets? Try to see the big picture. Shiny, shiny, shiny.
We have to break their will before we can loot, you fools!
Please, everyone, please.
Let's strap some rockets to the city. Ooh, big candle.
And then
And then we just take the whole shebang wherever we want. Yes! Finally, you're exactly right.
Seriously?
That's dumb.
Ah, weak candle. Just wait till second gear kicks in. Yes! It's just like I said. We're going to take Dalaran for all that it's got. It's a genius plan. It's simple. It should have been obvious. And absolutely nothing will go wrong.
So, genius, how do we land?
Welcome back to the Hearthstone Grandmasters Asia Pacific. Here we have Glory versus Tyler, and currently Glory is winning 1-0 as he kicked off that last game with a big Van Cleef. It was controlled and removed by Tyler, but by the time Tyler got the job done, he just didn't generate a big enough or wide enough board to be able to just pressure the Rogue back. And Glory ended up taking the win just with the help of a sap. And now the players have switched out. You know, this is specialist, so after their primary deck has been played, they can choose to, if they desire, move onto a deck which is the same class and a 25 cards the same, but also they can swap out 5 different cards. So what have they switched to, Language Hacker, and what impact is this going to make?
Well, Tyler has switched to his secondary deck, which takes out a Frost Nova Mind Control tech, 2 Astromancers, which we saw were kind of heavy last game, and a Sea Giant to add in 2 Acidic Swamp Oozes, so add in some Weapon Hate, 2 Vex Crows, and Giggling Inventor, clear not at Rogue, obviously, which is what Glory's playing. Glory has switched to his tertiary deck, which takes out a Shadow Step, Bloodsail Corsair, 2 Life Drinkers and a Ziliax, and adds in a second copy of Sap, 2 Walk the Planks, so some heavy single target removal, and 2 Henge Clan Thugs, which is, we've seen in the past, has been pretty powerful against Mage, as Tyler's Mage does not have that much removal short of Ray of Frosts, which aren't really the best way of removing minions.
Yeah, it's not the core, you know, prime use of the card. It's
Right.
mainly used as a stall. Sometimes you have to double up and remove something with it. But now we see a slow-ish start for Tyler. He does have potential explosive turns with this magic trick. There's the mirror image and of course the evocation into Cyclone play, the sort of signature play of the deck. But he does have to get there and see how much he even wants to commit here.
So Glory with the Walk the Plank draw, he's cutting out this Henge Clan Thug really early, saying, all right, this is going to connect face multiple times. If you play big minion, I'm going to Walk the Plank it. Tyler, interestingly, can double dip with these, maybe not this turn, but in the next couple turns, he can double dip with a Mana Cyclone, playing 3, 4 spells perhaps, and then in one turn playing both Mana Cyclones, effectively getting 8 cards back.
Right. I mean, that will definitely be a big turn, and then suddenly Tyler's in a game mode that does not exist, where he's just playing with a ton of cards that weren't in his deck. The biggest deal here now is just this Henge Clan Thug. Like, is it already just going to push a lot of damage?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to connect fix this turn. Glory is deciding what he wants to do. He can either just dagger up, he can choose to deadly poison with it, but he should expect that Tyler switched. Obviously, these players are blind picking these decks, so Tyler doesn't know for sure that Glory switched to his tertiary list, but he can assume. And likewise, Glory should assume that Tyler probably switched to his anti-rogue list. So
Tyler
will a lot, actually.
Tyler will know now because of the Henge Clan Thug, right?
Right.
That was an addition. But yeah, you know, Glory's of course not 100% sure yet. But yeah, I do love this. Use the prep, get the deadly poison. So not only do you push more damage, you also generate an additional minion. And now Tyler has to get some relatively quick answers to this, because this is just quickly, especially with Leroy Eviscerate, it's just lethal. It's just over the course of a few turns.
Yeah, we've been talking about this a lot, and all these rogue players are very good at recognizing what needs to be done. If you have a lot of time and you can make these explosive turns, I'm not going to give you the time. I'm just going to try to kill you.
And this is why Tyler's just having to go in, right?
Yep.
And like you said, he is going to double up with his Mana Cyclone, so... Oh, here we go. Cinderstorm, pretty good.
A lot
Blizzard,
of mirror images.
not bad at all, but about 1,000 mirror images, along with even an Ice Barrier as well, can buy Tyler a lot of time.
Ziliax won't hurt either. The Mana Cyclones themselves on board aren't terrible either, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, not bad at all.
Deckhand draw will let him clean up one of the images cleanly.
Most importantly, push a lot of damage to face.
Not a huge reason to trade into these Mana Cyclones. He can use his dagger to clean it up. That way he saves his minions. But I imagine this Hench Clan is only going upstairs. Can read dagger as well. Tyler isn't running Harrison. And even if he is, I think the read dagger is just fine. Get the mana out of the way now.
And I think killing one of the Cyclones actually just makes this Hench Clan as safe as it can be, whilst not really losing too much damage. So I do like this. Next turn, there's potentially Leroy or just the Eviscerate with a card drawn. But then also there's just Walk the Plank, which is going to get rid of this. It's going to get rid of this Ziliax. Very nice.
We'll see what he wants to use. Oh, with double of this. Yeah, ooh. Maybe he will walk the plank.
I think you walk the plank because Eviscerate can go face and walk the plank definitely cannot.
So Glory should know that, how many of these cards? 3, 6, 7 of them are randomly generated, I believe. So there's only 2 natural cards. He might want to save walk the plank in case one of those cards is Giant and Tyler happens to find another a Conjurer's Calling.
It's tough, right? Because I was even wondering whether you walk the plank that turn and just slam Leroy the next and then have a card plus double Evis from hand to maybe just kill them, right? Because the one thing Rogue can't do is beat just spells from hand. It's the taunts you have to worry about, which is why the Walk the Plank was kept. But also I think just getting double Abyss to face as the finisher is more important.
Tyler drawing the Mountain Giant from the deck. That was guaranteed since both Cyclones were in hand already. Those being the only 2 elementals in the deck, the 2 Cyclones and the 2 Giants.
And if Tyler passes here, it's...
I think he's deciding whether or not he wants to A, play the second images to...
Okay.
Right.
Because what I was thinking was if he passed and left 2, right? Then honestly, I would consider, if I was Glory, using Abyss Walk the Plank
just to push
8, and then you set up lethal, right? You don't presume there's about 18 more mirror images, so you'd use those resources up, and then Tyler could go back. But with so many mirror images, he's safe this turn. He's also relatively safe next turn, and he has Frost Nova, and he also has the Giggling Inventor next turn.
He's got a lot of defensive options. Glory doesn't have that much gas left in the hand, right? We got some burst, but it's not quite enough to get there.
It's one of the reasons why I was honestly wondering whether you just walk the plank Ziliax, because he's effectively -4 damage to face that he could have for want of keeping hold of a walk the plank. I 100% understand the merits of holding walk the plank, of course, but in this matchup when the only thing the mage can do to stop you is taunt.
Perhaps. I mean, it's definitely something to consider. Glory recognizing now that he kind of just has to clean up the board, playing the Edwin, activate the Eviscerate, preventing any Conjurer's Callings from going out in the Sandbinder. He's kind of running thin on gas. He's trying to keep this Hench Clan alive and as big as he can. Looking like he's hoping for a Myra's draw. With the Elementification, Tyler can play with the Giant for mana cheaper, but that doesn't accomplish a whole lot. It lets him use it with Ice Barrier and another images if he wants to. He could just play with the Giggling Inventor.
And the problem here is Glory's had to deviate from his just full face plan. He just eviscerated a 2/4. Right? So now he's... I'm not saying this is bad, but now he's like -8 damage, which means he just can't just blatantly go face anymore and go for lethal. He has to try and play some kind of longer game. The Walk the Plank's great, but he's one other card, the Leroy, means that he just doesn't have good options. His next draw or 2 has to be fantastic, or Tyler's just bought enough time to do whatever the hell he wants, to be honest.
I wonder if Tyler is thinking about if he wants to hold this Giant until he draws Conjurers, or just throw it out now with perhaps a barrier.
I don't mind Giggling here.
I think the Giggling is a lot better for a couple reasons. One, you can save the Giant until you get Conjure Calling, or at least until a later turn. But 2, just with like a Backstab pickup, that would push a... Wait, actually, did he cut Backstabs from this list? No, he still has Backstab. So with a Backstab pickup, Backstab, Dagger swinging into the 0/1, Edwin cleaning up a 0/2, that Hench Clan could go face. So I like getting out these taunts here. He's probably going to be happy to see a Walk the Plank come out on a Noitron.
Oh, 2 Discover spells. That changes things.
Does. Get some cheap things off of this.
Small note as well, it was extremely unlikely for the actual Giggling Inventor to die that turn, which means it's a fantastic target for the Conjurer's Calling, yeah. And it means that Tyler wouldn't necessarily have to commit a Giant to get a good Conjurer's Calling turn at all. He could spend more mana just doing whatever he wants more than anything.
Arcane Intellect, gonna try to dig for something. I mean, he's got a lot of spells, but they don't do quite enough to deal with the current board state.
Yeah.
Blizzard can stall a turn. I think with the Walk the Plank gone, and you know there's 2 lackeys in hand, you might get to the point where you just want to play out this Giant, and then another Mirror Image is behind it. The Giggling Inventor can clean up the Edwin. It's frustrating not having a Conch Calling, but you need to do something, right? You can't just wait, because eventually Glory could find enough ways to get through your Mirror Images and make this Henge Clan and Leroy connect.
Yeah, especially seeing 2 lackeys, you know, like almost anything's possible at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 2 lackeys, we can see it's 2 of the powerful ones with 2 discover spells, which then could be damage. It could discover a Myra's, which changes the game. Even just sprint. There's loads of things that you could discover that actually have a huge impact on this game that Tyler seems to have a strong hold on now.
Tyler taking defensive option here, taking the turn 2 to develop Ice Barrier, so that when these Mirror Images do come down, Glory shake of the head, laughing a little bit. That's the 3rd or 4th Mirror Images this game. But Tyler taking another defensive turn.
Head crack, not bad. Maybe Shiv's better.
Not sure you want. Yeah.
Oh, he's
head
gotta
crack
go
is
for the head
nice.
crack plan. Yes,
This
Glory.
is cute. I don't hate this.
Yes.
Probably Walk the Plank here. The other 2 don't quite fit the situation.
Tell me you don't want a Leroy scheme.
No. It'd be funny.
It would be funny. I do love the head crack though.
I do like the head crack as well.
Do you shadow step the lackey?
I think you might want to hold it for the Leroy, but
Okay.
you could.
It's tough, right?
Oh, the miscreant.
Okay,
Yeah,
miscreant.
Get some more stuff out.
I was thinking more of a generation of a spell, but this generates 2 things
Yeah.
anyway, so whatever.
Rushlack would
Yeah.
be nice. It lets you clean up one another.
Glory just laughed. Glory, what's funny is Glory would have actually liked not those 2. You would have, for example, +1 attack rush would have killed another 0/2. You know, a deal 2 obviously kills off a mirror image too. It's plenty of stuff to play with head crack though. Tyler's on a clock now because he will just die to head crack eventually.
Well, I think the Henge Clan's a bigger clock, but the head crack isn't bad.
Right, but Henge Clan he can do something about. He can kill it. He can
right, there's
freeze
no way to
it.
stop
You
the-
can't stop head crack outside of a counter spell, right? So you know there's just a clock that Tyler can't really turn off.
So it looks like Tyler's taking this turn to go in.
Deep.
Yep. AI to find some more cards. Elemental Vacations at the Giant, so he can play the Sea Giant, as well as a Ray of Frost to stop the Henge Clan. With an Ice Barrier up, he knows he's a little bit safe, so now he actually has some sort of proactive game plan. And with a Blizzard and a Nova in hand, he could just ignore the board and try to connect face twice and kill Glory that way. Fortunately, Glory did pick up a Walk the Plank off of the Ethereal Lackey last turn, so he does have an answer for at least one of these, but he has to consider whether or not he can play around Spellbender, I guess. He's tested for Counterspell and Mirror Image and Splitting Image, but it could still be Spellbender.
Tyler just showing off his Hearthstone flask. I like it. Okay, this is nuts. I actually thought Glory was going to set up Head Crack Lethal next turn. Because he could have traded away the mirror images, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Switches all the minions he has on board.
I'll go for Leroy.
He could just deckhand Leroy. Oh no, Tyler's got 2 1/1s. Doesn't matter, it fills up board space. And Head Crack. Puts your opponent, and he swings the dagger as well, actually, so puts your opponent to 1. Am I going crazy, or is that not right?
No, the math is there.
Yeah. I mean, this is obviously pretty good because the discovered betrayal.
Yeah.
But to set your opponent to 1, you would have had to have just played the minions out and used all your mana anyway. This is a fantastic clear,
would've
don't
been
get me
interesting,
wrong.
yeah.
But what is Tyler going to do?
I mean, against exactly Ice Barrier, so that would be a bit of a problem.
100%, yeah. I'm just saying from Glory's point of view, if he wanted to do it, he would have had to have committed at least the
Right.
deckhand, right?
Yeah.
But from his first play that turn, he was never going to do it.
I'm sure Conjurer's Calling is in the deck somewhere.
Does have Blizzard, and somehow another mirror image.
Right.
Are we on 5 this game? I feel like it's 5.
Yeah, I think there might be 5. It might have been 5.
Also very cheap Rabble Bouncer.
Taking the turn to Luna's Pocket Galaxy, holding off a little bit on the
Tyler's not
complete
happy.
board freezes.
He is not happy with the betrayal. That's a language hacker special.
Well, powerful card. 2 mana, deal 8.
Yeah, pretty good. Sometimes 16.
So Glory knows that there are now, I believe, 2 random cards left in Tyler's hand, unless the Nova was also randomly generated. So there's
No, the Nova's been in hand since the start.
Right, right. So there's a bit less to play around now. Glory can kind of try to plan out the next couple turns and think of how to finish up this game.
Starting off with just one and a combo effect, and there's another walk.
I've never seen so many walk the planks in a game.
Yeah. I'm worried as to why the ship has so many planks.
Yeah, I don't know. Good question. And now going in with Leroy, using the lackeys to clean up the whelps, leaving the Leroy on the board as a threat. Continuing to push some damage with the rest of the minions and the head crack.
I love it so much.
I tried to make head crack work at some point. It just couldn't.
Yeah. Got to take a leaf out of Glory's book.
Yeah.
Generate it, and then against a deck that can't heal. And again, it's just I feel like 2 games in a row, the betrayal was into what the plan was clutch.
Yeah,
100%. You know, don't get me wrong, but I feel like outside of that, Tyler's just never really, you know, dug the claws into the game. You know, he never really done something big and got the big minions on the board or got the big board somehow with even like Vex Crows, for example. It's just not happened for him, right?
There are Vex Crows in this deck too.
Yeah, there are.
Oh my god.
He has Pocket Galaxy though, so it's going to be 1 mana if he does draw it.
I mean, look at this Henge Clan. This Henge Clan was coined out in turn 2.
Yes. Henge Clan's a good card. Does have Blizzard though?
It's done quite a bit. Right, yeah. He can delay the turn a couple. He can delay the game a couple more turns, but he needs to find. He's on 9 health. He knows there's a head crack in hand.
The good thing for Tyler is he knows Leroy is now gone.
Right.
Which is a big deal. That's a lot of health. He knows double eviscerate's gone. He's got to be the head crack clock. So I think he has to Blizzard with Rabble Bouncer. And maybe even just play the mirror images, because why not?
Yep. I think I agree.
Yeah. Just get rid of the big threats. You don't want stuff Shadow Stepped or bounced in some weird fashion. This Rabble Bouncer almost always lives except for the walk the plank times. But again, I don't think Glory needs to walk the plank.
I think he will. There's not much left to walk the plank.
You know what? Yeah, for Conjurers, right?
Yeah, there's not much left, honestly.
And just this head crack. Is that 6 now? Is that 6 on the head crack clock?
Yeah.
6 or 8? I think 6.
What do you mean, how much damage has been done or what's left?
How much damage is done?
Yeah, I think that's the 3rd head crack.
Town needs a dream. Oh.
Okay.
I mean,
No,
you can
no,
summon
no,
more.
that's
You can
okay.
summon more, yeah.
That, I mean, not quite what you want, but it'll do. You need to be doing something, right?
Yep.
It's going to be difficult for Tyler to come back. I mean, like you said, he's on a 3-turn clock now with the head crack, funnily enough. I don't know if he can generate a big enough board that will let him deal 26 damage to Glory.
That's it. That's why. I imagine as well, if that secret just wasn't the ice barrier, right, which gained the extra health,
he'd be dead.
like Tyler'd just be dead.
Yeah.
And that head crack has a lot to do with it, because as I said, it's unavoidable outside of a generated counter spell.
And there's not many ways you can generate counterspell now, right?
Yeah, even because even
Magic trick?
Spellbender doesn't proc
Right.
Spellbender, right? So it's literally counter spell that would stop you chaining it.
And you could even play around it too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's so powerful now when you're already putting pressure on your opponent, and you know they're not putting pressure on back. He has to do this.
Yeah, he pretty much has to. I'm curious if he wants to. He's probably just going to Ray of Frost instead of the Frost Nova. Let's go and Cinderstorm this turn too, just to get it out. He's probably holding on to the Ooze, maybe hoping Glory will equip a Waggle Pick to try and deal with the mirror images, but.
Also, he missed the ping.
Oh, he did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tyler's showing us the L. He's about to pick an L up, I think, because not as big a rope issue as we've seen today, but even just missing pings, he has to do something, right, to get as much damage as possible. And now this clock's even quicker because there's the Kobold Lackey into head crack next turn.
He's not even killing the images. Wait, did I miss something? Is there a reason he's not killing the images?
Board space? He knows he wins next turn.
Right.
So I guess he just doesn't want anything crazy generated.
I suppose. I guess some sort of like double conch calling top deck, but you can still make 3 minions on the board. There is board space for that. Interesting. Probably inconsequential. Like you said, he does have the final head crack and the lackey to the Kobold Lackey to finish off the game. And And with that, Glory's gonna take it 2-0. Rogue takes win over Mage.
Yeah, pretty powerful victory there, and I do feel like maybe one of the cracks we're starting to see in this Mage deck is that it's not fast enough to create a threatening board. It can do crazy things almost every game, to be completely honest. Look how many mirror images we played, for example. Yeah. But the difference between that and the Dragon Mage that, say, Staz is bringing is you constantly drop threats, so there's constant things happening. Whereas in this list, it's a little bit more flashy, a little bit more, not as minion based. Sometimes you just whiff, and sometimes, yeah, you do a lot of freezes and a lot of spells, but you don't actually kill your opponent to win, so it can be a little bit difficult. Tyler takes the loss, as he pointed out to us with the L there with a 0-2. Glory takes the win, and that was match 4, I believe. I'm losing track already, but we've got 2 more matches left of the day, so don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back.